Hi children, how are you? Today we are going to learn about the world between wars 1900 to 1950 part 1. As during that time the world possessing the population about 1.6 billions, and it was at the beginning of 20th century. And what is 1 billion means is 100 crores. And if you have some elaborate population of the world present concern, at present we have got 7.8 billions, nothing but 780 crores. The population of the world for the present year, that is 7.8 billions, nothing but 780 crores. And 2019, that is 7.577. 2018, that is 7.5, and 2017, that is 7.0 basically. So that was the population of the world at the beginning of 20th century and present situation. And during that time, the industrial capitalism had changed the way many people earn their livelihood. So let us have what is industrial capitalism. So it is a system both social and economic whereby industrial resources are owned by few for profit. Those industries, those were under the control of few people of the society, and whereas those people, they worked or they run those institutions for profit, not for welfare of the people. It means the means of production, distribution and exchange was in the hands of private individuals. So my dear children, you must remember that the production, distribution and exchange, it was not in the hands of government. So it was under the control of some private individuals. And during the beginning of the 20th century, the industrial capitalism changed the livelihood of the people, especially Western countries of the world. And what are the Western countries of the world? For example, Britain, as we know very well, that the first industrialized country. And because of this, the world divided into two important divisions on the basis of the economical growth. That is, number one, the countries who possess the growth in economics, and second one is backwardness. So the world divided into two, economic growth and as well as backward countries. And what countries were got such growth in their economy concerned? Western countries. And what are those Western countries? That Britain, Germany, Italy, USA, France, Spain, and all these comes under Western countries. So by that we can understand that these countries were equipped with economic growth, and whereas other countries, the rest of the world, so they possess and they were in backwardness. So that is about this, the position of the world at the beginning of this 20th century. And one mistake, if you remember, one person, namely, so he was the person Eric Hobsbawm, and he born in Egypt. Actually, he born in Egypt, but actually he settled in Britain. That's why he was a famous world historian. He was a famous world historian, and he born the June 9th of 1917, Alexandria, which is in Egypt, and he died on the 1st October 2012 at London of England, or which we usually use it as Britain or British. And this man, so what the speciality of this Eric Hobsbawm's concern? Actually, his name is Eric John Ernest Hobsbawm, and he wrote so many books, and some of books I would like to give you some important things. That one is the Age of Extremes. The Age of Extremes. Age of Extremes. An Age of Revolution. Age of Empire. The Age of Empire. The Age of Capital. The Age of Capital. The French Revolution and bandits, the worlds of labor, fractured times, and industry and empire, and primitive rebels, a life in history. So these are some important books which were written by John Ernest Eric Hobsbawm. He called this the 20th century as the Age of Extremes. Who called this? Eric Hobsbawm, and he born in Alexandria of Egypt, and he wrote so many books which has become the famous throughout the world. And this is his family. So that about this Eric Hobsbawm. And if you move on, how how was the world during those days? During those days, the world was experienced with two ideologies. Two ideologies. One is fascism, and second one is Nazism. And the word fascio comes from the word which means the bundle of rods. So the people who adopted this fascism, they want to rule the country with frightenness. One among them was Mussolini. That was Italy. He belonged to Italy. And second ideology which was prevailed during those days, that is Nazism, and which was started by Adolf Hitler of Germany. And this he wrote one book actually. So if we move on, and during those days, the power, the authority was in a position that nobody used to question. So unquestioned power, unquestioned authority. If any ruler commit a mistake, but people doesn't have such the power to question them. Why did you like this? And how is possible? No. And even the hatred for other races, especially whether you remember or not that this Adolf Hitler, he killed so many Jews, the race of Jew, and as he belonged to German race, and he developed that such enmity towards other races during those days. So as the people experience such kind of a cruel and as well as unpathetic, unsympathetic ruling during those unquestioned power, and politically the world aspired to have other than fascism and Nazism, otherwise nothing but they want to have a democracy, the concept of democracy. So what democracy means? Or democracy, we know very well that the democracy comes from two words, derived from two words. One is demo and another one is kratia. So demo means people, whereas kratia means rule. So democracy is nothing but the people's rule. What is that? People's rule. But in this democracy, everybody will be respected each other. Everybody has the power. Everybody has they have the right to express their views and opinions. Whereas if you compare with fascism and Nazism, they did not have such kind of concept or such kind of things during those days. So that's why the world want to have the concept of the democratic form of government. Whatever, whether it is parliamentary form of democracy or presidential form of democracy. We know very well that India is an example for parliamentary form of democracy, as that we know that all people, as we call them as a member of parliament, MPs. How many MPs are there? There are 545. And which parliamentary constituency you belong? And who is your MP? So that is also very important. You must know all these things. And so because the people were vexed with such kind of power, and they want to have the democracy form of government. And if you move on, what happened in the beginning of 20th century or during the 20th century? There are drastic changes happen. One is literacy levels develop. The people, they want to learn something. They want to be literate. If they literate, automatically their lives will be changed. So the ideology of the people has changed, that the literacy, the percentage of literates develop, and even average life expectancy was grown. And earlier they used to affect some epidemic diseases like cholera, malaria. They used to die, they used to lose their breath. And even if you observe that the world almost experienced about one disease known as COVID-19 or coronavirus. Do you know, my dear children, that US, which is the country which has more economy and used to call the king of the states, US, even it has been affecting with more than 20 lakhs of the people, they were affected with the coronavirus. So like that, and such kind of diseases were abolished, and even and they discovered some medicine for them, and that's why the average life expectancy grown. And even the new arts like movies emerged. Earlier they don't have these movies. May I know which is the first talkie movie or mookie movie in India? Which is the talkie and which is the movie? Mookie movie, we know very well that Satya Harichandra, and as well as Alam Aura. So you already learn all these things. So new arts like movies emerge, and very very important, which we have to remember, my dear children, that is scientific knowledge raise. The technology was developed. And what technology means? They question three things: what happened, how happened, where happened, and what are the things, what are the factors for this happening or occurrence. So scientific knowledge arise. So these were the thing, and they tried to discover the secrets of atoms and life. So they used to develop the knowledge, how it happened and what happened, and the secrets of atoms and life. And very important thing which we have to remember, my dear children, that the woman who has been suppressed, who has been exploited, she got the right to vote during this century only. So women got the right to vote. So they got the power to elect or to select their leader. So even, and one thing what happened, that more than 100 nations, because of their aspiration, democratic form of government, and they protest against the governments where there is no freedom for them. And these more than 100 nations walked into independence and freedom during the 20th century, the beginning of 20th century. And even the 20th century can be called as the age of great expectations and great experiments and great dangerous developments. So this 20th century is nothing but the age of great expectations, great experiments and dangerous developments. So let us have a look. What are the dangerous developments, and as well as the 20th century, nothing but the age of great expectations. So people, they strive to build socialist type of societies. And what is meant by socialist? society concerned, where there is the liberty, equality, fraternity, where there is. So, do you know what are the ideologies of French Revolution which become so popular in the world? That liberty, equality, and fraternity. What is meant by liberty? The freedom of expression, freedom of opinion, freedom of use, freedom of education, and everything. And the principle of equality, and everybody, according to this, everybody should be treated equally, respect of caste, creed, sex, etc. And another, the society, what they expected, that there should be a principle of fraternity, nothing but everybody should develop the concept of brotherhoodness and sisterhoodness, and liberal democracy, so that we can consider that the age of great expectations by the society, the beginning of 20th century, and not only that 20th century. And in this aspect, the world experienced one thing, economical depression, that we call it as Great Depression. And because of that, what happened, the result of Great Depression leads to the massive unemployment. So many people, they lost their employment. And even it's a 21st century also, as we are in 21st century, that because of this COVID or coronavirus, as because of this lockdown of about 80 days, so many people, they lost their employment. And even economic breakdown because of this Great Depression. The whole world economically, they lost each and everything. So such we call it as breakdown. And regarding the age of great experiments concerned, so the laboratory experiments being done, and scientific developments with the technology also being took place during this 20th century. And as we already discussed, that the scientific knowledge was improved in this 20th century only. And what these the dangerous developments? What were the dangerous developments experienced by this the world? That firearms, they used to start the arms and nuclear weapons, and even the whole world experiences the world wars. And there are two things which we have to remember. One is which influenced the whole world economical, that is Great Depression, and politically the whole world experienced a bad experience through the world wars. So that's about the 20th century, the beginning of 20th century. And in this chapter, we are going to have a discussion on the consequences of two world wars. The consequences of two world wars. So this is the whole world. So almost all countries they involved in these wars. And another important thing, and what were the results of these world wars? And second, what we are going to discuss, that Great Depression which happened is 1920 to 1939. So that was especially US experience such. But fortunately it was not affected. So that's what we are going to discuss in the chapter, that two things, that the consequences of two world wars and the three responses to the Great Depression of 1929. And to manage this, the world aspired for an international organization, namely United Nations of Development. And how to, the basic objective of this United Nations organization, that to maintain peace and law and order in the world, and even development in all perspectives. That's about this. So that is about this, the beginning of 20th century, or the world between the wars 1900 to 1950, part 1.